Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about... Oh, I can close that now, can't I? Movement. So I think I'm a little bit like Feldenkrais in that I love getting better at one thing, but I love bringing in heaps of information from different things to get better at one thing. So I love going to different sources and going, how would I use this? Is this helping me to see things in a different way? So one of the books that's been really, really powerful for me in terms of looking at development is, there's two actually by a woman, I mentioned this the other day, by a woman called Seaus2MelbS5D3c. A lot of this that I started getting interested, of course, as a physio, I did child development. You know, I had to really laugh. I think it was second year and we had to go out and observe this child. I had no idea what I was looking for. And it's you know, that's where it gets really interesting. There was nothing there to nudge my learning. We were just meant to go out and observe this child, and somehow something was going to happen and I would understand child development. So that's where it gets interesting. You know, if I wasn't able to make enough distinctions, then it wasn't really a wonderful learning for me. But anyway, but then I started seeing kids with functional difficulties, and boy, did I have to start asking myself some questions. How do you learn how to walk? How do you learn how to sit? So, you know, I'd watched Feldenkrais and, you know, I can still remember the first FI I ever saw him do, which you've probably seen, which was with a little boy called Jonathan Hughes, which I, as a physio, was sitting there going, oh my God. I can still get the ANS response from the emotional experience of watching that thing and going, and I suppose this is where the learning comes in, because I thought, I can't begin to imagine how he's doing that, but my God, I'm going to learn how to do it. So I suppose that's a difference, that I obviously thought that I had the capability to learn to do it, that psychological part. Anyway, so Seaus2MelbS5D3c's written 2 books, Typical and Atypical Development, I think it's called. I'll check these. It's a really nice one if you do work with children with neurological difficulties, because she really, in the first part, she really describes typical movement and what you would see at different times through the process of movement. And then the second part of the book, she really describes, and again, you know, maybe you need a bit more of that language of physios or understanding more of that anatomical thing. She really clearly says what are the big things that these children have difficulties with and the patterns you will see that they have difficulties with, which I think's really interesting, because there are particular patterns that you'll see over and over again. Her other one, this one I know that I got on my Kindle, and it was really pretty easy to get. Her other one is, I can't remember, but it's something like Development in the First Year. And this is all about normal development, and she really breaks it down. First month, second month, third month. This is what they do in prone, this is what they do in supine, this is what they do in side lying, this is... No? So if you do like something like that, what I used to find is, the reason I loved it is I would just get on the floor every time I'd open it. and she'd describe it, I would be on the floor trying to sense what she was talking about. But anyway, so her idea, which I really love, is that typical movement is complex and variable. That's the bottom line. Huh? All of us have learnt through a combination of our genetics, which does have a really big impact, our environment, the things, the histories we've had, that we all have our signature ways of moving. And you've probably already noticed, though, that as movement improves, and I don't know if you watch back many of your tapes of you all doing ATM, but it's fascinating to watch the process of, as people do more Feldenkrais, they look more and more alike in their organisation. So all those individual differences that can start out at the beginning of a training, gradually everyone starts to actually look more and more the same. No? Because there are particular ways of organising ourselves that are much more efficient. No? So it makes sense. We're still individuals, but we look more and more the same. Her other thing, and this is the big thing that changed everything for me, the basic characteristic of movement is the ability to move and make transitions. Because I now fundamentally understand that, it is so easy to assess people. It's so easy for me to see where they're having difficulty. And it was really apparent working with kids where so many, the ones who really struggled couldn't shift their weight. I'm in one place and I have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go at all. Nowhere. Not up, not down. I'm just sort of stuck in this, in this place. And that movement implies then a weight shift or a redistribution of weight. If that doesn't happen, forget movement. And probably that's, you can hear that I've been plugging that a lot, this ability to feel how you use the ground, because it's this ability that allows us then to make the transition to come up, to raise our centre of gravity, to bring us up in space, to be able to come to standing in the world. And it's complex and variable how we do that. So most children get there. We all learn in particular ways, though. And you've only got to see, you know, a group of 5-year-olds running to see how differently, what different children have learnt. Yeah, all the different ways. But they've achieved their intention. And that's the always thing to keep coming back to. Are they achieving what they wanted to, what they want to do, and how can we make it easier for them? What can we understand about organisation that can begin to make it easier for them to do that? More efficient and easier. And we have to understand that on ourselves. What is it that's making it easier for us to get up off the floor? To make those, what is it making it easier that's allowing us maybe to roll out of bed a little bit easier in the morning? What is it? So just come up to standing for a minute. So we're just going to do this really. I really love making things concrete. You'll get that after a while. I don't like leaving things in the domain of thinking. So feel where the weight is on your feet. Don't let it shift. Don't let it shift and try and bend over. I can promise you, if you're going down, you have shifted your weight. I can promise you. You might not think you've shifted your weight, but I promise you, you have. Might be tiny, might be a tiny redistribution, but you have shifted your weight. No? So can everyone feel that? Yeah? So what about if you were going to bend? Let's try some different orientations. Can you feel how much that weight shift enables your head to get freer, your arm to reach down to the side? And you can weight shift in many different ways. Huh? So you could weight shift and go to the other leg, you could go more to the same leg, you could go a little bit back and to the side, you could go a little bit forward. And that's what gives us complex and variable movement and more efficient movement. So what we're looking for in so many people is they have very habitual ways of shifting their weight. No? Very habitual directions that they can easily move in to shift their weight. And, you know, I'm going to postulate to you, you can see that in the movement of their eyes, the movements of their head, because it's a whole trajectory that they're losing in space, in an ability to orient in space. So babies are learning from the moment they begin to mobilise themselves. First thing they're doing is, how do I shift weight? And that's why it's really hard. I don't know if you've ever seen, but you see some of these gorgeous little things in humidity cribs. No anti-gravity response. Absolutely flat to the ground. And how important it is for those children to be folded, to be brought into flexion, to be come together is just so profound. Being able to round is profound for any baby. Again, fundamental to development. We're going to see. Yeah? But that's how we're born, isn't it? Where are we when we're born? They're rounded.
They're rounded for a while before they start unfolding.
They unfold, don't they? But they start rounded. Rounding is to do with security. Absolute security. No? This is about I'm safe. Where do we all go when we're anxious? Yeah. Huh? It's about that ability to feel safe, to feel moving. Okay, so what we're going to do now is a whole process of taking you through movements. So it's not a pure ATM. Yeah, it's a bit more exploratory. So I'm not going to be paying quite as much attention to the qualitative aspects in this exploration. So please look after yourselves. Yeah? It's going to be, I'm more getting a sense of what are some of the